Hello, and welcome to another video. Today we will kind of continue our fighting series with a practical example of a game where I try to explain most of my fights in probably High Master MMR, which is what this account has. But I started the video right now already because I want to go into a little bit of a theoretical discussion before the game starts, I suppose. Or well, it's not really a discussion since I'm more so just speaking in a one-way sense, but you know what I mean. So what I want to talk about at the moment is how fights in general work in both League and in other games. So you might think that it's just, okay, well, two champions hit each other, or we try to react to everything, or something like that, but it is a bit more complex than that, I suppose you could say. So the way that it usually ends up turning out is in the lower brackets. So let's call this skill level 0. So when you don't even know what the champions actually do, right? What you will have is people just playing completely wrong, right? So this isn't really a controversial statement because when people don't know how champions work, they just play completely wrong against the champions. Like if you play against Yasuo and you're, I don't know, Lux or something, and you're just walking up when the wave's on his side and he has a wave to dash through, right? We can just objectively say that you're most likely just playing completely wrong. But this is not really a problem of the player's understanding of fighting. This is a problem of the player's understanding of the game. Not even understanding, more so I would say it's actually about how he has learned the game. He has not learned the things which he needs to know about the game yet. This is why it's recommended to play mostly one role, because if you play, or well, it's another reason why it's recommended to play one role and a champion or two, because then you will learn how your champion interacts with other champions and you learn the champion's ranges. So if we look at some champions right now that are in the meta, right? So let's say that you're a jungle player and we go by pick rate, and let's say that you are gold. Most likely you are going to be playing in most of your games against these champions: Kha'Zix, Lee Sin, Graves, Kayn, Yi, right? Jarvan, Shaco, Nocturne, Kindred, Vi. Let's say that these 5 champions are going to be the predominant chunk of your games. If you're playing against Kha'Zix in 15% of your games, that means that you're playing 1 or 2 out of 10 games against Kha'Zix. What does that actually mean? Well, that means that you will be familiar with his jump range, with his invisibility duration, with his Q damage, with his W slow, whatever, right? With his clear speed, with his HP bar. As a laner, this would mean that you will be familiar with the range of these champions and what they do. So you're playing against Yasuo a lot, so you should know when he kills you. You should also know how much damage approximately he does, I suppose. And a small bit of how to play against something like Windwall. Against Ahri, you should know how far her Q travels, how far her, say, E travels, right? How far she can reach with her ults, stuff like that. This is not really understanding of fighting, this is just knowledge of the game. 1 second, I have to do my runes. Yeah, that looks fine enough. Okay, so then after this level, we have the skill level 1, let's say. This is the starting zone of people who actually know what the champions do. Oh, this looks really fun. Thank you, enemy team. So at this point, we arrive at a sort of crossroads. There are people who will start to understand how to play the game now at skill level 1, and there are people who will get stuck here for a while. So if you don't really think about how you take fights, how you do them, and whatever else, and about what the enemy wants or whatever, then you get stuck in this loop where it's like, okay, well, I want to do this. So since we're going to use Evelynn as the example for a while now, let's just say Evelynn, right? So As Evelynn, it's slightly faster to do QE and then use the rest of your spells. So whenever I can, I will always try to use Q and E, right? If I Q from range, then I'm going to do slightly more damage because my spell is going to come up faster, right? It's going to come up sooner. So since I'm doing slightly more damage, I'm going to Q from range, right? If I use my E, then I do a lot of damage, and I can probably use my ult after that. So I'm just going to use my E instantly. Because I want to do as much damage to the enemy as possible, right? Okay. But yet the issue is that all of these things which I just listed are actually wrong. And why are they wrong? Well, because the way that you have to think about fights in general, and actually this doesn't even apply to just online games, but it also applies to pretty much everything that you do where it's player against player. So you have to think, well, if I fight against Blitzcrank, then he will get a lot of movement speed, right? Or Miss Fortune, she gets a lot of movement speed. How do I hit my Q from range? That doesn't make much sense, does it? If I miss my Q, I lose half my damage. That doesn't make much sense, right? Like, why would I open with Q then instead of E? Is that 0.2 second or whatever, or 0.1 second really worth it? Good question, right? Then, lastly, I want to use my E, but if it gets broken, then I'm losing half my damage yet again. Is that really worth it? In this game also we're going to path towards bot lane, because while top lane is double melee and I do have some CC, Gragas is a very annoying champion, very tanky and quite slippery, and I'm not really interested in that. And I also have Draven double range, so this is quite a volatile matchup in bot side. So if that approach to fighting is wrong, then what do we do? Well, the next level after that would be skill level 1, right? Or rather, skill level 2, I should say, since we started with 0. So at this point, we start to think, okay, well, what does the enemy do, right? Pretty decent, right? This is the point where both of the players should actually know what all the champions do. And, well, I should say at skill level 0, both of the players probably don't know what the champions do. At skill level 1, it's likely that you know what the champions do, but maybe the enemy doesn't know what the champions do, or you both know. Both scenarios can be the case. And at skill level 2, both of the players should know what the champions do. So when you start to know what the champions do, how are you supposed to actually win? I mean, some champions are just overloaded, so I got stuck between the Raptors, that's really cringe. So even if you know what those champions do, say something like, I don't know, Yasuo, it doesn't mean that they don't have a lot of options, right? Or Xante or something, right? I don't know. While some champions are very telegraphed, so if you know what they do, it's kind of easy to avoid those things, right? So think something like, okay, so Malgai's bot for some reason. Think something like Garen, right? If you know how much damage Garen does and what spells he can use and what he does, he just runs at you, right? So as long as you know the numbers, you should technically be fine. I mean, you can obviously get a bit outspaced or something like that, which is a general fundamental of the game, which doesn't really have much to do with the champions. But in terms of champions themselves, you shouldn't really have an issue with something like that. I think Tristana's gonna try to fight because he's impatient. Either way, I want to go for the second scuttle, because bot side scuttle, they have a prio. But then, okay. What is the next level after that? Well, after that, since now we started playing mind games, right? Then the next level of player will also start to play mind games. That's a bit unfortunate. So now we went from both players not knowing what the champions do to one player knowing what the champions do to both of the players knowing what the champions do to one of the players knowing what the champions do, but him actually deciding to do something that is contrary to what his champion actually usually does, so that he can beat the enemy, because the enemy does the wrong thing after that, right? So here, I think in the last video, I used an example with Vi and her having her Q, right? So if her Q is down, she can't really reach you as something like Lucian or whatever. So then, in that scenario, we get to a point where it's better for me to stunt my own DPS to mess up the way that the enemy champion plays, right? Also, in that fight in mid lane, there isn't really too much to say. It's just, as long as I use my E first so that she doesn't dodge my Q, I should have enough damage to kill, and Yon had third Q, so if we both go at the same time, it should be winnable. That is a fight really that's brought upon by the idea of what is my way of winning, right? And by way of winning, I mean, how can our champions actually do something here? So, Yon had third Q, so I'm thinking that that is the way that my champion can do something there. By using the CC that he has. Here I had just Prio from bot, so kind of just win because I have better... Oh, I don't want to damage him. I had better items and I had Prio from bot, so we have more players, so that's the condition for winning. I can't really win against Maokai because he just used me away and walks away, and there isn't really too much that my champion can do after that. So this was the only real way to win a fight there. Perhaps I'll go over the fights more in depth after the game, if there are any interesting ones. But for now, these are very simple, right? So, like that fight is just auto winning for me, mostly because I have bot lane prio, and that's why I also chose to take the fight. So, as I said in the last video, if your fight is auto winning, then you should focus on making sure the enemy doesn't get away from you. Oh my own just missed every spell. Rip. Do I need to just run there? I don't think I do anything even if I run there. Perhaps I can trap though in a bush. Could be possible, perhaps. Perhaps, mayhaps. The only real way I can achieve anything here is just by... Oh. That's okay. I think she kills this also, maybe? Suppose not. Bit unfortunate. I mean, I flipped it because I don't have a sweeper. And the only way I can really play that is through those bushes. It's a ward that is just unfortunate. One camp gives me 6, so since 6 is such a big spike for our champion, we shall try to play off that. And we have a specific way that we want to approach fights against every champion and enemy team. Also, I don't think I'm gonna win this game because I'm thinking and talking too much about other things rather than the game, but I don't really mind. I just want an example game. So, how do we fight Gragas? We have to ranged charm him, because if we don't charm him from range, what's gonna happen? He's just going to press E. In my spreadsheet for Evelynn, I included one way of fighting every champion in the game, I think. Though that is a very general statement. That one way of fighting. Okay, so here she doesn't have W, right? So now she will have to ult me if she takes too much damage. Though I missed my Q, so I don't actually do that much damage. Here I would like to fight the enemy though. I think I have to fight, because if I don't fight the enemy, then I will get a bit outscale. Or well, I won't get outscaled, but team-wise we will get outscaled. Because my champion will not outscale the whole enemy team at the same time. Well, my team needs to push. So here we can't really force them to fight, right? There. But we can force them to fight on their tower. So what I really want to do here is make sure that they push. I want to make sure they push, and then I can go kill the enemy. I mean, I don't know. They either push or we lose the game automatically, so I'm gonna try this anyway. But this is like really bad now because Tristana can make it. But if I don't do this in game, it's just auto lost anyway, so I'm gonna do it no matter what. That was not human what they did. Not pushing the wave is not human. It's only play I have, since I already committed to taking this fight. If I was only clearing and then I did dragon or something, it's okay that they grief like that and don't set up the dive, but since I already went there to make the dive happen, it's way too bad if we don't get it off. It's just way, way, way too bad. My Draven is dead again, so now I can't do dragon. This is lovely. Also, that fight, I mean, that fight was not really winning what I did there. Like, there is no winning that. You flash in, you combo the MF as best as you can, and you just hope that they don't mess your combo up. Because if they mess it up, you will die and you just lose the game. But as I said before, there is not really much of a choice for me there. Because of what I chose and what the other people chose in my game, I'm forced to take a bad fight at that point. Which is unfortunate. Because as I said, I can't really make them fight me unless it's under tower. And yet my team did not understand that they need to make the enemy fight me. Which is a lack of understanding that's pretty common for people in League below actual high elo games. So this, I just have to wait for Gragas to E, or I have to wait for him to walk up close enough to do something. And now this should be doable. He walked up. Well, you didn't hook him in time. That's fine enough. The idea there is to walk into the wall so that when he does ult, you get ulted into the wall and not away. But sadly, I did not manage to succeed in that, so yeah. I wanted to walk mid now, mostly because I'm trying to get my mythic, but it would appear that my life is not meant to be with a mythic item, so I'm gonna play this then. Honestly, I think that the two playstyles are about equal here. If you go Magi and you try to stack it, or if you go mythic and you try to fight with that, because I do have some consistency within my laners. My Yone is not that bad at the game, he's just bad at Yone. My bot lane is a bit bad at the game and bad at their champs. Draven specifically, mostly. Oh. Well, sucks. Unlucky. Unfucking fortunate. I was talking and whatever. Just bad by me. But I mean, fighting bot is the only play I have. I mean, I think that what I should do there is to ping my karma to like come bot so that we can actually play the game. But I think that no matter what we did, the outcome would be bad there because they're so behind and playing so bad the whole game that at this point the enemy can just, I mean, that wave was going to push, right? That the Draven had. That wave was going to push, and then no matter what, they would get to fight. And when they get to fight, our bot lane would lose no matter what, I think. I think the outcome would be pretty much the same except me dying, which sucks for me. The thing is, you can't really play fights against this right now, mostly because Blitzcrank, I mean, okay, so the leveling game, as an example with Blitzcrank, is first level, he doesn't know what you do, so just kill him. Second level, he knows what you do, so now you have to avoid his first spell that tries to like break your E or whatever, like Qs or Es or something. Then like the third level, like suddenly he knows, oh well, he's going to try to dodge, so he just holds the spells, so you can't even like go in, right? And the fourth level, you decide, okay, well, I can't go in if I don't go in, right? Makes sense? Okay, well, this sucks. It's just too bad. I can't go in if I don't go in. So you just go in from the start. And then he now loses because he's holding his spells. Because he thinks that you won't instantly go in. And then the next level after that, would be with you. What the fuck? My in-game chat. With your team, or well, I'm trying to say with him realizing that you cannot go in, so he still holds his spells, but now he decides that he's just going to be ready to ult. And now because he's ready to ult, he actually ults in time when you go in, so you can't ult or whatever, and now suddenly your combo gets ruined. Then the next level after that can be you, like, I don't know, rocket belting towards them, and then you like walk back because he is going to man, so unfair. Bot lane is just so unfair, man. The next level after that is you rocket belting in, and then the Blitz like wasting his ult. Whatever. BFF. We can't win this game. Unlucky. Bot lane roles just have 0 balance, 0 skill. Unlucky that they're not human for 5 minutes. Unfortunate. But it is what it is. Sometimes you have to lose, I suppose. I mean, I can still win this game if enemy just like gives me shutdowns, but it's really hard because like this champion just presses E on me, this champion just presses W on me, this champion just presses ult, right? So you can't, like, the problem is, right, you can play the leveling game and try to bait the enemy spells, but when the enemy has 5 spells that can stop you from playing the game, i.e. Tristana ult, Gragas E, Gragas ult, Maokai W, Blitzcrank ult, and actually that's not even all of their spells that can stop me from playing the game. There's also Blitzcrank E, Maokai Q, Maokai ult, right? So when the enemy has that much going for them, it becomes really impossible to play, I suppose one might say. There is no way that this works for me, because she has flash, of course. There's no way I can fight like this either. There's also a sort of leveling game within dodging spells, within hitting spells, and so on. Like, for example, at the start, people don't dodge at all because they don't, I don't know how to dodge or whatever. Then at some point people start to dodge every spell, and that's how you can hit every spell. And after that point where people dodge every spell, they realize that, well, you can now hit every spell because they're dodging on every spell, and they have a set pattern that they're usually doing because they dodge habitually rather than on a case-by-case basis. Just so much attack speed, what? Whatever. I mean, I just try it. I think the only way you can play this and win is if you go here and stealth, but then she just walks away. Might as well try. I mean, if Draven ulted, I could have tried to fight it and maybe trade 1 for 1. But I don't think my Draven is playing the game. Also, I was thinking maybe I survive and I bait for him since he has flash as well. Either way. Then, when people realize that, well, you know how to dodge and I know you know how to dodge, so then I'll just predict your dodges because you're dodging habitually rather than on a case-by-case basis, because you can't always react to every spell in League. And a lot of spells are too fast to react to because of both the champion's movement speeds and the travel time of the spells, I suppose you should say. The combination of those things makes it so that while you might be able to react to the spell itself and also where it's going, by the time that you have reacted to the spell and where it's going, it will no longer be dodgeable because your champion won't have enough time to walk out of it. It's a boring game I'm playing. What the fuck? Jesus. League of Legends. This guy only ults for waves. Player. Kind of getting thrown out of my thought process here. So what I'm trying to say is that at some point, there is a sort of bell curve that exists in these games where that guy's low elo even at FFing. Because like if you're good at FFing, then you hold the FF until 20 minutes is coming. And then you can pass the vote. Or wait, did they change the vote before 1 and 15? I don't know. I haven't FF'd the game in like months, I think. I just don't press FF anymore. Or sometimes I do, but it doesn't go through. But if it's like 3 or 4 yeses, I never press yes anymore. I don't know. Pointless. Lovely. So what I'm trying to say is that in all champions there's present bell curve where you will start to play more like the people who are really low on the ladder at some point, because that is a, so to speak, incorrect way to play and not the most efficient, but it makes it so that you win more, I suppose, because if you do the most efficient thing, then you're always telegraphed. People in high elo always know what you're gonna do if you do only the most efficient stuff, because most people know what's the most efficient course of action, right? Or at least somewhat know it. So if we take as an example champions like Draven, which make it really obvious, right? So a bronze Draven player drops all of his axes because he doesn't know how to catch his axes, right? As he climbs, he learns how to catch more and more axes, and then at around diamond or something, or master, he starts to catch every axe, right? But then, as he keeps climbing again, so he goes like higher in master, he goes like GM, he goes like Chal, he starts to drop half his axes again. And why is that? Well, because he drops them because he's baiting spells, he drops them because the axe itself is not in a position where he wants to take it, he drops it because he needs to walk forward rather than walking back, and he can just ready up another axe with his Q, and so on, right? I don't think my Yon has hit a spell this game. I really feel like he hasn't. I mean, I stand by what I said, by the way. This guy is not so bad at the game, but he's horrible at Yon. I don't really see a point in FFing, because while I can FF, I suppose, it's just like, what do I gain from that? I'll get out of the game like 3 minutes faster. But there's like, I don't know, a 3% chance that I win the game, let's say. So why not? Maybe here I can bait, because you see this guy is like, oh. Anything pretty hard the whole game, so... What the fuck is that range, man? What the fuck? Jesus. That range. He hit me from like here to like... Jesus. I mean, he's level 16 in Tristana, but... I haven't seen that in a while. I guess people don't play Tristana much recently. I feel like I got a bit derailed with my thoughts in the middle of the game because of the way the game is going. I think it's not been too bad. So I think what I was trying to say is, I think I made it like a decent relatively clear point where... Let's use more examples, I suppose. That makes it even easier. So like Darius, right? When you're like bronze, the way you play against Darius, you just walk into him and then he kills you, right? When you're like gold, or when you're like approaching gold, diamond, whatever, you start to like stop fighting him, right? Because, oh, Darius, big scary boy, right? But then at some point, you realize that you can fight him again, right? And then you start fighting him again. And then you start walking into him again. So gameplay kind of has this, let's say, little yo-yo. Same thing happens in jungle, same thing happens in like pretty much everything. There's like this little yo-yo where people, as they climb, learn to do one thing, and then to climb more, they have to do the thing that they did originally, which is a bit ironic. But the reason that it's like that is because when you did that one thing that you originally did, right, you didn't know why you're doing it and you didn't know how to do it. So while the thing itself could be okay and you could get away with it, it didn't really work for you at the time, right? And this does not mean that, oh yeah, if you're bronze and you're playing perfect, then it's just team diff or something. It's just some aspects of what you're playing are fine to retain. Let's flip this. Oh well. I think I could have killed her actually if I used... If I didn't use Rocket Belt, maybe? I was stuck in Rocket Belt animation, then I couldn't flash E. If I got my flash E off, then I would kill it. But the reason that I used my Rocket Belt is because I'm not exactly sure if I kill it with QE, you know? Because if I get insta-seed, especially by their ults, I think she could live anyway. Honestly, I don't think it was like too bad of a way to flip it. The thing is, if I get this 1000 gold, it's really insane, right? So it's just worth it to try. Why not? If she dies, we can also maybe play for an objective. Though it's kind of unlikely considering how big Tristana is and how unskilled and whatever else this Maokai champion is. I think the only way to play here is just to trap in a bush. And if I can kill MF, then okay. But they don't even have to go for dragon, that's the thing. But if I don't clear mid wave, then they just win. They just stack in mid, and with Baron buff, they just win. And ironically, I can't actually do mountain, because if I do mountain, then they will end the game, because my only defender is Draven. Or well, I guess Yone as well, but what to really say about these two players? Well, let's just take a shutdown, and I don't know. Can't kill anyone when he's alive anyway. Well, GG's, I suppose. I think I got my point across, kind of, so if you enjoyed this video, then like and subscribe, and maybe I'll make more like these, maybe more in the lecture type of format, or whatever format it may be. Either way, bye bye, I'll see you next time.